Captain Marvel #1, Carol Danvers. I've never been a huge Captain Marvel fan, but I wanted to check this one out. Movie's coming out. They're trying to push a new book to promote the movie. Should be interesting. We have Kelly Thompson on as the writer and Carmen Canero as the artist. So when this book opens up, we have a 9-panel grid, and there have all these words to describe Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. So there's fighter, soldier, pilot, leader, warrior, icon. So then we open up and we are in Lower Manhattan, and Carol Danvers is fighting this octopus kraken monster thing with Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, and the two of them are fighting this weird monster. All of a sudden this beast eats a small child, and Carol flies into the mouth of this beast to save this kid, and then she kind of explodes and pops out of the head of this creature, saving the child and killing this beast. Finally, a whole bunch of Iron Man bots come to kind of carry this creature away and investigate it, as well as these Iron Man bots invite Carol over to meet Tony on Avengers business. Apparently, Carol Danvers has blown this meeting off with Tony Stark a few times. She's been putting it off, but she's finally going to go through with it. So she shows up and she's talking to Tony, and Tony is talking about how, Carol has been in space for the last few years, or for however long she's been in space for, and it's kind of created a little bit of a PR problem. And the Avengers, they've done some polling, and people find that they don't really know what Carol is actually doing when she's in space, because they don't actually see it, when she's in space. They don't actually know what she's up to, and her image is kind of taking a bit of a hit, and they want her to come back on the Avengers, but they just want her to do this little puff piece interview, and maybe when Carol does that, it'll help with the PR purposes and it'll smooth things over. So, Carol agrees. Tony also wants Carol to help train this new kid with these big time powers named Jennifer Takeda, aka Hazmat, and she's apparently this Avengers Academy kid, and this is a whole bunch of kids that the Avengers were worried they had the potential to become villains. And this Hazmat, she doesn't really like Tony Stark, but she's kind of going along with Tony because Tony's gonna help her with her tech for her costume or whatever. And because she doesn't like Tony wants Carol to help take this kid under her wing and guide her. So Carol agrees, and she's gonna help this kid out. So Carol's talking to this Hazmat, and this Hazmat gives a little bit more about her backstory and how she has these toxic powers, and the suit she's wearing helps insulate others from this radiation from her suit, but it's began leaking again, so Tony Stark's helping her. And then Carol runs into James Rhodes, and apparently they've had some sort of romantic relationship in the past, maybe, and they get talking, they go to dinner, they start reminiscing about all the times, they almost kiss, and then all of a sudden, this reporter who's supposed to interview Carol shows up, and her name's Ripley Ryan, and she's with Miss Magazine. So they talk to her for a bit, and all of a sudden this guy, the Nuclear Man, shows up. He starts attacking Carol, James Rhodes, and this Ripley Ryan reporter girl. Carol Danvers goes and fights this Nuclear Man, easily takes care of him, and then the Avengers show up to come take this Nuclear Man off. But it turns out that this Nuclear Man was playing possum, and then he attacks all these Avengers that have showed up with something called a weakening ray. Okay, sure. And then Nuclear Man, he grabs this Ripley Ryan, this reporter girl, and he retreats into this portal, and Carol runs into this portal on after him, and then all of a sudden the portal closes shut and nobody else can go in after them. And then the last page in this issue, we see Carol, and she's in this post-apocalyptic world with all these weird people, and then it says the phrase revolutionary, going back to that first page with the 9-panel grid with all these words to describe Carol. And so now add revolutionary to that list, and that's how this issue ends. So I thought this was an okay debut issue, good way to set up Carol Danvers in her new status quo with all these interesting things. Although then when you retreat into this portal and you go into this weird world, that kind of takes us away from everything that's been set up the earlier part of this issue. I kind of wanted to see this interview play out. I wanted to see more of the James Rhodes, maybe romantic relationship play out and training this kid. But now Carol's in this weird portal world next issue. We'll see where that goes, though. I would give this first issue a 7 out of 10. Not bad, but I'm not really sure where they're going with it. Like, are we going to be in this portal world for a long time, or are we going to get back to the normal, everyday kind of stuff that I'm more interested in?